Hello, everybody, and welcome to the WildWeiler Weekly Wrap. As always, I am WildWeiler. First things first, I just saw the Dungeons and Dragons movie, so if you're here, if you found this vlog because you searched that, that's what we're going to talk about first on my weekly vlog, but you should know that the format is generally I talk about things in chronological order, so lucky you, new viewers. But please do stick around for the rest of the vlog. The Dungeons and Dragons movie is really, really good. It's one of those movies that wants you to enjoy yourself while watching it. And as I say that, and as I realized that, I realized how many of other modern movies don't really want you to enjoy them. They want you to do something else, like watch the next movie that's going to come out in 2 years, or they're going to want you to watch the tie-in show, or buy something. But oddly enough, for a movie about an established property, one that could have easily fallen into these pitfalls, the Dungeons and Dragons movie does not do that, which is astounding. I was delightfully surprised. It's a really fun movie. It was one of those movies where people in the theater were laughing out loud and throwing like one word comments or saying ha when things happened because the energy was just so good, unlike going into honestly, like modern superhero movies where you think you're going to have a fun time, but everybody expects you to be quiet because it's a very serious movie. Even though they're full of gags and whatnot, the audience just acts super seriously. So the Dungeons and Dragons movie, not like that in my experience. So the viewing experience is great. The plot is hilarious. It really feels like you're watching a Dungeons and Dragons campaign, even though it doesn't have any sort of overarching narrative that there's no like voiceover that indicates that people are playing a game, but there are a lot of like little subtle nods in the way the story is presented to how D&D is played, sort of how players act and how like D&D characters don't really act like normal rational people. So it was really good. It was really, really good. I don't want to oversell it. As far as movies goes, it's an absolute entertainment movie. It's not an art film. It's not a philosophy film. It is just good fun, and for that reason, I highly recommend you go see it if you can in theaters and if you can with friends. And if you can't see it in theaters, it will be out on streaming services. It's a movie made for nerds, and nerds have computers, and nerds watch things that are streaming. So, but do try to watch it with friends because it is one of those movies that's just great to laugh at with other people. And I think that was so much of my positive experience. Like I said, you should see it. That's all I'm really gonna say, because I'm worried if I talk more, I'll get like either spoilery, or I'll tell you why you should like it, or why it was good or what was bad. And if you're like me, because somebody said something was good and had a reason, you'll be looking for that reason, and it'll distract you. And I don't want to do that. It's great. It truly is an amazing movie. Longtime viewers will know I've been off for a week thanks to some unexpected nonsense, and I am sorry for that. It does feel like I did a complete media blackout with no streams and no movies coming out here on YouTube, but that happens. The reason is the studio I record this in, the studio I do my recording and living in, had to get a new roof. And to prove that, here's a terrifying photo of a hole that was in the old roof, which, let's just say, is a really weird roof architecturally, and they had to do this to fix it. Now, some of you are already sitting up in your chairs going, WildWeiler, this doesn't look like a dome. And I would say, why would I leave my dome looking like a dome where anybody could see it? It's the decoy house on top of the dome, obviously. Okay, so there you go. Anyways, it took a very, very, very long time, and in that very, very long time, I could not do any recording because the sound of nonstop sawing and hammering and drilling and cutting and sawing and hammering and drilling, it was basically like the worst parts of going to a dentist. So, huzzah. In that time, though, I did, listen to like a lot of podcasts and some other things, which was great. There is a very weird podcast out there about Disney Channel original movies called Mom Can't Cook. And I've been listening to that, and they had an episode about the movie Quints, which I guess is about a family having quintuplets all of a sudden. But one of the hosts, Luke Westaway, says this.
At Art Club, Marnie is whining that she's unhappy with the commodification of the babies, which, makes sense. Babies shouldn't be commodified, although, again, the mum and dad really have their backs against the wall. They genuinely don't have another option, so it's the film doesn't really do a great job of kind of painting this decision to monetize the babies as a bad one, because
we saw what happened when they didn't, and they were literally at their breaking.
Do I think the Quints should be monetized? No, of course not. Does the film present any other way that these babies can receive the financial aid and care that they require?
It does not.
No, it does not. So whatever.
And I was really taken aback because this take is so amazing, and I think it's missed, especially in a lot of, say, YouTube discourse, where when you want to critique something, especially a work of fiction, you should really, really stick your critique to what that work of fiction brings to the table. So as he points out, the movie doesn't present the family as having a way of getting money that these quintuplets need for, being raised, because I imagine having 5 babies at once is very expensive. But they don't criticize the movie for not having the parents sell meth Walter White style or anything, because the movie doesn't bring that up as a way to make money. Nobody says, oh, you can earn more money selling Avon, and then they have to explain why they didn't do that. No, the movie doesn't have that, so they don't talk about that, which I think is amazing. It's really good because it's one of those things that authors don't need to put in everything that explains why their characters didn't do something if that thing wasn't brought up. If that thing isn't part of the universe, you don't have to explain why a character didn't do it. And if we did that, all media would be crazy boring. All media would be basically like Twitter, where you spend all your time trying to word the perfect tweet so that way people, when you say, I like sandwiches, don't go, oh, so you hate soup then? No, I didn't talk about soup. Why are you talking about soup? Soup isn't part of this discussion. And I think good critique is like that, where you talk about, what has been brought to the discussion. Now, there are a few things where you could be like, okay, obviously this fiction whitewashes history, or this fiction treats people in a problematic way without, through basically ignoring people and stuff like that. So there are exceptions to this rule. This is a very general sort of idea, but for things that don't really affect a narrative or don't disadvantage people or don't cause harm, really keeping your critique to what is in the fiction and what is presented by the fiction, I think is a very important thing for people doing critique. And in the era of hot takes, everybody's rushing to make hot takes because well, actually they could have applied for a 17B double form and got an extra childcare support, because when you have more than 3 babies at once, you can get that in the state of Pennsylvania. So that wasn't brought up. We don't know what's going on in this alternate Disney Channel universe. What if Pennsylvania was an independent, unannexed territory due to just absolutely bonkers outcome of the Battle of Gettysburg? We don't know. So we probably shouldn't just go around guessing. But anyways, I thought that was so cool. I remember listening to the podcast, and when Luke Westaway said that, I even went, hell yeah. This is how critique should work with fiction. You really should try to stick to what is addressed. And I just thought that was so neat. I wanted to share it with you all. If you like funny people talking about Disney movies, namely Andy Ferrant and Luke Westaway of the Gamer Network, and Oxventure, the live actual play D&D show, check out their podcast, Mom Can't Cook, a DCOM podcast. Link in the description, just because they are responsible, for about half my blog content this week. Speaking of that, that does it for this week. Bad news, I am traveling in, a day after filming this, because this vlog is late too, and I won't have any other content coming up this week. I am deeply, 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 deeply sorry for that. I am going to ye old Londinium, so the next week's weekly wrap is going to be late too, unless I can find a way to shoot it entirely from my phone, which means I'll have to do it in one take because I can't edit it, so that will be Interesting. So we'll see. On that note, if you are in or around London if you are in or around London and you know any good brunch spots for Easter, please tell me, because I have no specific ideas at this point. And, I'm always willing to try out things just about anybody recommends. As always, thank you so much for watching. If you're new, stick around, drop a like and or subscribe. This might be the actual first time I've ever asked for one of those. And I will see you later. Bye-bye.